Hello everyone, my name is Peter Tuddenham and hopefully I'm the incoming President of the International Society for the System Sciences 2018 to 2019. Of course, I should have been standing before you in Corvallis today, but instead I'm here in Northern Virginia walking in the trees by the rather full Potomac River. As some of you may know, I had an unfortunate system occurrence a few weeks ago, and my doctors advised me not to travel on an aeroplane for 6 weeks. Hence my resting here in Northern Virginia when I should be with you all in Corvallis, which of course is immensely disappointing at this time, particularly as I have spent really the past year working with David and Javier and Jennifer, Daryl and the team to be aware of what's going on there in Corvallis, make contributions as necessary, and to help Karen and Jocelyn with the student graduate course that has been going on this week. So it's with great pleasure that I can greet you this way and reassure you that my recovery is well in hand, and I'm out here enjoying the countryside, as I hope you will do on perhaps the field trips that are scheduled for Friday afternoon and Saturday morning. One of the themes, or the themes that I would like to see over the coming year, is to reinforce the fact that we are indeed embedded in nature. We are living systems in so many ways. My system sensitivities have been increased enormously over the past 2 weeks, and I'm going to bring that experience to bear on how we look at the topics that I think we should consider this coming year, which are important to me. Obviously, our individual and our collective health, and the relationships that we have between and among us and with the world around us. So that's the first topic, of making quite sure we know who we are, where we are, what we're doing, and how our systems are personally, with the families, in our communities, and around the world. Which is related to the next topic that obviously some of you know is really passionate concern of mine, and that is our ocean. Obviously we're looking here at the river, the Potomac, and it flows down to the Chesapeake Bay and into the Atlantic. And for the past almost 20 years now, I have been concerned about bringing ocean education, ocean science into schools in the United States, and most recently and interestingly around the world, which I'll say more about in a minute. Which of course has led me to this experience here with ISSS and the idea of promoting systems literacy, which is the other important topic that I'd like to discuss with you. I'm probably going to return now to my office to complete this presentation, but I wanted to start off by reassuring you that I'm well on the way to recovery, and I'm excited about the current year, and that we can do it with our due consideration and remembering that we are indeed embedded in nature. As I was leaving the park to head to my office, I realized I wanted to say a couple of other things. One, that the place I'm in is the Algonquian Regional Park, which is named after the indigenous peoples who originally were here on this land. So I thought I'd acknowledge that. And I also wanted to acknowledge Len Troncali and Helen Finidori and Michael Mahaffey for having the workshop on Thursday afternoon, which I had hoped to be engaged in. We've been working on that for the past several months, 6 months or so, and I hope it was a great success. It's meant to be contributory to how we look at the conference in 2019 and how we think about pattern literacy and systems literacy. So there's two other points to add to the thoughts for this presentation, and particularly, thinking about it in terms of what we can learn from indigenous peoples in terms of their relationships with the planet over eons. So on Monday, at the beginning of the conference, I was able to listen in via Blue Jeans to David's opening presentation and Gary Riedler's, as well as Peter Rolfe. And I wanted to acknowledge the support of INCOSI, not only for this conference, but for the work that we've been doing on systems literacy. Ever since I got engaged in this in Berlin, INCOSI has been an important contributor and supporter of this effort. Gary Riedler and the team and James Martin have been great supporters of the System Sciences Working Group. We've been engaged there. And for example, last October, the Great Lakes INCOSI had a regional meeting, and Jennifer Maker and Gary Smith from ISSS were there and made great contributions to thinking about systems literacy in terms of watersheds. So I'm very grateful to them for that. And the ongoing work that we've been doing, Steve Maestro was also from the Navy Lab in Philadelphia, has been helpful in developing ideas. So INCOSI, Jack Ring, and of course Janet and Michael Singer, and Len's been doing a lot of work with INCOSI as well. There's just a few names that come to mind, but it's an important contribution to what we're doing, and it's really exciting to see these groups working together to develop systems science and its application to the world. Let me talk a little bit about the International Society for the System Sciences. If you go to the website, you'll see that it's described as a worldwide association for general systems research. And I think it's good to just reflect a little on the enormous contribution that this society has made to the field and what we can do together to advance it in the coming years. Interestingly, the society was conceived in 1954. Well, I was born in 1954. As you know, probably by Ludwig von Bertalanffy, Kenneth Boulding, and Ralph Girard and Anatole Rappaport, in collaboration with James Miller. And what's interesting here is that it was formally established as an affiliate of the American Association for the Advancement of Science. And one of the things that happened a while ago during transitions from the General Systems Research Society to the current title was that we lost our association with the American Association for the Advancement of Science. Well, this year a number of us have been working to re-establish that connection with the American Association for the Advancement of Science, or ISSS as it's known, and we were very pleased earlier this year to learn that we have indeed been re-affiliated with ISSS, and we hope that that will serve as a beacon to reinforce the scientific endeavours of the Society, to reinforce our contribution to science, to the world, and to developing system science. I'd like to just read actually the purposes of the Society. Well, the original purpose was to encourage the development of theoretical systems which are applicable to more than one of the traditional departments of knowledge, with the following principal aims: to investigate the isomorphy of concepts, laws and models in various fields, and to help in useful transfers from one field to another, to encourage the development of adequate theoretical models in areas which lack them, to eliminate the duplication of theoretical efforts in diverse fields, and to promote the unity of science through improving the communication among specialists. So I really hope that we can reinforce all of those aims or see them move forward, particularly looking at isomorphies across disciplines as we have been exploring this week, and particularly to look at how we can learn from one field and apply it to another. I'd like to spend a few minutes making the connection between ocean literacy and systems literacy, and why I think that our ability to look across disciplines and use isomorphies and patterns and so on can be so very helpful. In 2000, I became involved in ocean education and ocean science education in particular. And I became aware that the ocean was not taught in American schools, and that there was a growing awareness that this had to be changed. Not easy when curriculums and standards and so on are set. And so the decision was made by a number of educators and policymakers and scientists to get together and to define something called ocean literacy. And that meant bringing together different disciplines, ocean science disciplines, chemical oceanographers, physical oceanographers, biological oceanographers, so on, to agree on what's important to learn about the ocean. It took some doing because they all had their own opinions and thought, they should be on first. Anyway, with the help of the College of Exploration, my not-for-profit, we were able to get them to agree to a definition of ocean literacy, which is understanding the ocean's influence on you and your ocean and your influence on the ocean, and to come up with 7 principles and 44 concepts, and then to map those 44 concepts and ideas to what was then existing in terms of national science education standards. Produce this amazing sort of matrix to give science teachers the opportunity to use ocean science to teach science. And that was a grassroots effort, not much money, very little actually. But it set in motion lots of conversations and ideas about teaching the ocean in schools and in museums and aquariums and so on. It evolved over time to be a new guide, another guide, that the standards were changed. And so we were able to play a role in influencing the next generation of science standards, which have, as part of their condition, a number of cross-cutting concepts, such as patterns, cause and effect, scale, proportion and quantity, system and system models, energy, matter, structure, function, stability and change. They offer an opportunity, I think, for us as system scientists to enrich and inform those topics. They don't have what I would call system science really in them at the moment. So there's an opportunity for a system scientist to get involved in ocean science literacy. Well, and in science education in general, frankly, in the United States at least. This model of a guide and the process of collaboration and coming up to consensus was recognized by a number of other disciplines, in particular earth scientists. They produced their own guide like this. That took quite a bit of effort. 500 people wanted to participate in that, so we actually had a massive online conference to help USGS and the National Science Foundation determine what's important about earth science for people to know about. And that led to a number of others, like climate literacy. They did the same thing. A group up in the Great Lakes were concerned about fresh water, so they did their one. And the Energy Department actually sponsored energy literacy as well. And atmospheric literacy is another one. So those are evolution of an idea. And this ocean literacy idea took hold in Europe because of the Atlantic Ocean Research Agreement, Galway Agreement, which enabled funding to be put forward through Horizon 2020 to fund ocean literacy in Europe for a number of years. And then last year, because of this rising awareness about ocean literacy, the College of Exploration, our not-for-profit, University of Rhode Island, and the Consortium for Ocean Science Exploration and Engagement, COSE, and also the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization office in Venice, UNESCO, were able to suggest a side event to the UN Conference on the Oceans that was occurring in New York in June. And so we all went up to the UN building to do this side event in June last year. And the room was absolutely packed. We were expecting a number of people, but it was like 4 times as many people just all over the place, crammed in, and it became a very successful event. And actually you can see the presentation on the College of Exploration website, actually. And what then happened was that the Swedish government put in some money to fund Ocean Literacy for All, which is a UNESCO initiative which took place last year, and we had a conference in Venice last December called Ocean Literacy for All, where a number of leading figures in ocean science and ocean research and ocean politics came together to meet educators and scientists and policymakers from around the world, actually. And we talked about the importance of ocean literacy. Now, what's come out of that is that in the decade for ocean science research, which is happening in 2020, ocean literacy is a key part of it. It's one of the objectives. We also produced this really nice book on ocean literacy, the toolkit. So I don't see why we couldn't do something similar for systems, quite frankly. I think it's time. I think the systems community at large needs to come together and work on a clearer message, basically, about the importance of systems and systems ideas and approaches that we all know about and care about, particularly those that evolve and are based in our understanding of living systems. So I'd like to play a video which has been produced by the Atlantic Ocean Research Alliance, which is a combination of Europe, US and Canada, about the importance of the ocean, and in particular the Atlantic Ocean. But if you think generally, you can apply it generally. This is just about the Atlantic, but it could be about the one ocean that we have. And think about all of the lessons from system science that we could bring to bear on how we study the ocean. I mean, it's used in bits and pieces. There are obviously aspects of system science that are used to do an awful lot more. And I just want to inspire you a little bit with this video. I think it's a really good example of why we do science and why we should care about our planet.
One frontier left, possibly the last. She is vast, mysterious, unknown. But she is also full of wonder. From within her depths, she feeds, gives life, provides refuge. She is a home, a place to do business, and a place to play. While her fury can topple kingdoms, her power can also change the world. And her secrets, her very DNA, well, they hold the keys to fueling, feeding, and healing a better, bluer world. When we unlock the secrets of the Atlantic Ocean, we unlock a greater future. But it can't be done without cooperation. We are the European Union, Canada, and the United States of America. We are the Atlantic Ocean Research Alliance. Together, we are embracing the mystery of our ocean, harnessing her power for good, so that future generations can reap the immense benefits. Through Horizon 2020, for the first time, over 500 scientific teams are engaged in Atlantic Ocean research. Mountain ranges and underwater volcanoes have been discovered the world never knew existed. An integrated ocean observing system is being developed that will give countries advanced warning of major flooding and storm risks. And we are learning how to sustainably manage the Atlantic's rich resources so we can feed our people and the people of generations to come. But the ocean is not without limit, and neither are we. If we lose momentum, the window of opportunity for some of the greatest progress humankind has ever seen could be lost. Join us, so that together we can continue the last great exploration campaign on Earth. Together, we can become the generation of sustainability. And together, if we act now, we can secure a new blue economy that safeguards the Atlantic and our planet's future.
So thinking about the role that system science can play, the international society, our society can play in helping ocean scientists and earth scientists and atmospheric scientists and energy scientists and so on work together. I'm hoping that in the fall, in December, at the American Geophysical Union, we'll have a town hall to discuss that topic. This is a major conference in Washington, happens every fall, either in Washington or San Francisco. About 25,000 geoscientists come. So let's get system science in front of geosciences. Hope that happens. Because let's face it, there are isomorphies that have been identified, and Len Troncalli, as you probably most know, has done a lot of work on this. And it was a feature of the workshop, one of the features of the workshop on Thursday, and he's produced a field guide for the field trip on Friday and Saturday. We're just looking at the forest and coast ecosystems and looking for isomorphies, really, literally, the kind of things that you could look at across disciplines: cycles, hierarchies, networks, flows, scale, spirals, for example, latency. So the idea there is to really reinforce this idea that nature's enduring patterns can help us learn more quickly, perhaps more easily, more readily, across disciplines. There's lots of examples there, with cycles. In COSY and systems engineers talk about life cycle, or maybe span, as Dwayne Hybertson would call it. We've got the water cycle, of course, with the ocean effort talking about there. Organizations go through different kinds of product cycles and so on. Hierarchies, you name it, they exist all over. Business, music, general concepts, even the World Wide Web, I suppose, to some extent. And then flows, blood flow, water flow, information flows. It's just across the board. And as I start thinking about when we were talking about this workshop, when Len was putting this together, and in discussions with Helene about patterns and how we identify patterns and how we can, as system scientists, really reinforce this notion, we think it's a tremendous opportunity to offer the work that's been done and is ongoing, and that we can see in the future as we develop a systems literacy guide. I found it quite interesting to reflect on what came up in it was the 36th annual meeting in Denver of ISSS, actually, and Fred Crowell, I don't know if anybody ever met him, but he wrote about systems literacy, actually, as a way to really bring about a change in education, a change in consciousness. And I think really the distinctions he was making was between formisms, mechanisms, contextualisms, and organicisms. Got to be careful with that word. Organicisms, and how really, if you look at the basis of ISSS, it's about the organismic. Again, we have to be careful here. Nature of the world that we're in and how we can learn from it. And the educational planning model that Fred was suggesting was ideal planning, and I think that's where we really want to be striving for, is what's the ideal world. Ackoff talked about idealized design. I tend to be an idealist. So I do hope that in our work together, we can all come together and work on the future ISSS, the future of systems science, to reinforce the scientific nature of it, and to build on the foundations that are there to see a very robust scientific future. I would hope too that we can do it in partnership with our friends at the American Society for Cybernetics. So I'm hoping that next year we might be able to do something together in some way, as the American Society for Cybernetics are having their conference in the Northwest, and we hope that the International Society for Systems Sciences will be up in this part of the world again. So look forward to seeing you next year. I'm so sorry that I couldn't be with you in person, but I hope this has given you a little bit of an idea of what I've been thinking about, and hopefully maybe this year we'll do some regular online work as we think about spreading our knowledge and learning amongst each other, perhaps over the year, using video conferencing and some technological means to facilitate. So have a safe trip home. Hope you go on the field trips, and I look forward to hearing all your stories about the great week that I'm sure you've all had in Corvallis. See you soon.